Thank you so much for staying with us then. Let's start here, because the South African Weather Service has issued a warning for disruptive rainfall in the Western Cape. It carries the risk of localized flooding, as well as damage in already saturated areas. City disaster teams, as well as humanitarian groups, have been assisting affected communities. So far, nearly 3,000 people have been impacted by storm-related damage. Nasiphi is in Khayelitsha and joins us now. Then, Nasiphi, one thing is for sure is that the already saturated areas, the low-lying areas, the areas that don't have sufficient irrigation as well as water systems are bound to suffer the most, particularly areas like the ones you're in now.
Well, what I can tell you is that the ground is wet in the Western Cape. And the canal swelling as well. I mean, just this morning, visiting those homes that have been impacted by the inclement weather conditions following the cold front that made landfall on Wednesday. We know that in the coming days as well, we can expect more rains, and with slight reprieve on Monday, where the Western Cape will not be experiencing any sort of rain. But the question in a number of communities that we've been visiting is, what is government doing or assisting or going to be doing to assist those that have been affected? I'm now joined by the Deputy Minister of Human Settlement, Thandimambe Hlala, here in Khayelitsha. I know that you've visited about 3 sites so far, or 3 communities in Khayelitsha so far. Do we have perhaps a consolidated number following the heavy downpours that we've seen?
Thank you very much, Newzroom for having us. We are indeed in Khayelitsha. We started with the engagement with the community leaders and the councillors. We visited about 3 sites. As things stand, we don't have a consolidated number of the people that are affected by these floods. But all I can say is that the informal settlements are engulfed by the floods, and the formal houses as well, they are affected, particularly the ones that have asbestos, and they've raised a number of issues with us. But safe to say that with the leaders of different parts of Khayelitsha, they've raised the issue of the floods, and we said, okay, we hear what you say. Floods, you admit that some of the people, they put their informal settlements in wetlands. But then what is to be done? What is it that you want government to do? They did tell us that there are pieces of land which are identified. Some of the land belongs to AXA, some of the land belongs to Public Works. So we have a responsibility at the level of department to solicit the land that belongs to government so that they are able to be moved. But another question that I asked from them was are you willing to move from where you are? Because in a number of cases, we provide service lands, but people will tell you that our economic activities will be, compromised, school for children and so on. But they considered to say they are ready and willing to convince the people that they lead to say that here is the land, it's serviced, then can we move? Because in some part of the informal settlements, the floods are caused by the pipes, like your storm waters and so on, where they built their houses. So they flood into their own homes. But the willingness for them to move from where they are to any service land that is available, I think that is what is going to give us a clear picture of how we move from here.
How is the department working with the other spheres of government in the Western Cape to assist those that have been impacted? Any short-term solutions, seeing that the issue of housing is a long-term plan, but in the interim, how are those that have been impacted going to be assisted?
The problem with the Western Cape in the main is the willingness that you do not find from the province and from the local government to intervene when there is issues of disasters. One of the issues which was raised, which came across very strong from those leaders of the communities that we met with, because they are the ones who invited us to that particular meeting, they were telling us that the problem with the city of Cape Town in particular, when you are flooded and you are in a disaster, they bring SASSA and they bring a food parcel. And they don't need a food parcel because sometimes the water would be coming from the ground into the houses. So that solution is not a solution that requires a food parcel from SASSA. They want to be moved from where they are, and they are willing to do that. So that also for us is a problem, because there is no kind of a working relationship which we can say it's cemented. We invited them to that meeting with the community leaders and the councillors, both the province and the city of Cape Town. In the last minute, after they confirmed that they are coming, they did not pitch up. They sent officials which did not have answers. And at the level of national government, we are committed in ensuring that with all the grants that we give the province, we enforce them to ensure that people are decently housed, because there's court orders which we found in that meeting that enforces the city of Cape Town and the provincial government to provide decent houses for the people, on top of the constitutional ruling on these matters. So we are going to follow it up, go back with the minister, engaging the Minister of Public Works, so that we get those pieces of land, and then we move people from those informal settlements that are flooded currently.
Last year you were here on a similar issue where we saw the trail of destruction due to inclement weather conditions, homes blown away, homes flooded. Once again, at the foot of winter, you are back in Khayelitsha, particularly in informal settlements, where residents are once again faced with similar issues year on year on year. How do you then go back to these communities after having visited them last year, who find themselves in a similar situation? What kind of conversations are you having with them, especially those that are currently now having to leave their homes and seek refuge in community halls?
The conversation we had today with those community leaders, I think it's a conversation to a positive direction, because remember, you can't move people from where they are if they are not willing to move. That willingness for us, it gives us certainty that if at the level of the national government we are intervening, and then be able to move these people willingly, to say move from here and go to this particular place which is serviced, because what also they were complaining about is the toilets, the chemical toilets that they are provided for, which are health hazard, to be precise, and then there is no regular cleaning of those particular toilets. But it boils down to an issue of them willing to move from point A to point B. So when we secure the piece of land, and then the land is serviced and so on, then we will be able to move them as a permanent solution, because now taking them to mass care centers also, health-wise, it's not a good solution. So with the pieces of land, they gave us herbs, they gave us everything. So we're going back now as a department, and the officials of the department are here with us. We are working on that.
How can you fix the relationship with the various spheres of government in the Western Cape, the City of Cape Town and provincial government, if you find people at the receiving end of Mother Nature, and government, or those that actually have the powers to change things, are unable to sit around the table and get to some sort of resolve to assist and deliver services?
We're hoping that with the MPLs that were part of the engagement and the conversation that we had earlier on, they will be able to go back with their colleagues at the level of the provincial legislature and have a conversation and share the conversation and the issues that were raised by the people of Khayelitsha and their leaders earlier on. And at the level of the national government, we are trying to have that relationship cemented, because as things stand now, it's cordial.
For those that are looking to settle or occupy land, and don't listen to community leaders when they are told that this is a wetland, water retention pond, there's a river here, or you're settling near a riverbank. What do you say to those residents that are also, looking for a piece of land to have some sort of a home, however, find themselves in dangerous positions where they're settling on unlivable land? What do you say as the Deputy Minister of Human Settlement to them?
The major challenge that we have currently in the main is that you give somebody a house and then occupy the house for 1-2 weeks, rent the house out or sell the house and go back to the informal settlements. So that's the major problem that we have. With the people now also who are affected by the floods as we speak, you check them in the national database, they are not eligible to get houses from government, and because they've got houses, whether in the Eastern Cape, in Gauteng, but they come to Western Cape and think that they will be able to get houses from government, and you only benefit once from government. But we are obliged to ensure that our people are decently housed. Now, each and every piece of land that we have, we are going to make sure that people are placed there one step at a time, because we have no massive land, as you would understand that the scarcity of land in the country at large. Now, we are going to also leverage on the expropriation bill which the President signed into law to ensure that we get these pieces of houses and make sure that permanently people are rescued from all these disasters that happens. We know June, it's floods, it's fire and so on. So we are a step to a right direction now that we had a conversation with the leaders of those communities and the informal settlements in and around the Cape Town city.
Well, unfortunately, I have to leave it there. That is Deputy Minister of Human Settlement, Thandimang Mhlala. It is starting to rain, Arabile, but we are still in Khayelitsha, going to be visiting those communities that have been adversely impacted by this inclement weather conditions, as we do know that in the coming days, more rain is expected. As you mentioned earlier, the ground is still wet. So those that are already finding themselves in a difficult position need to then brace themselves for a couple more days, as we can expect heavier rains in the Western Cape, not just in the city of Cape Town. We know that over 3,000 households have been impacted following Wednesday's heavy downpours.
Nasiphi, thank you so much for bringing us that report out of what is indeed a wet Western Cape there, as you can tell there, and that human settlements question mark will certainly be one of keen focus as well. We're going to try and give you a little bit more on that, of course, as things proceed later this evening and into the weekend.